Welcome. You're now tuned in to Two Queens and a Fat Guy podcast.
Yo, welcome everybody to another episode of Two Queens and a Fat Guy with myself, Fat Father, also known as Fit Father, and these two beautiful, lovely queens, Miss Jackie B, Miss Coco Butterfly.
What up, though?
How y'all feeling today?
Awesome.
Feeling good.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Uh, to the people out there, we got some pretty deep conversation for you today. We've been really thinking about this and planning and kicking it and trying to figure out which angles to come from, but still we always like to keep it organic. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk a little bit about domestic violence, you know, from all aspects, men, women, how it affects children, and in turn how they grow to be men and women, and how things can carry on into a whole nother generation. You know what I'm saying? So I know I can start off by saying I know as a child I was affected because, you know, I was in a house with an abusive situation. And at one point in time, we had to move into a shelter for abused women. And as a child, it's there are still certain things that affect me to this day. Like just the thought of feeling like I couldn't trust my mother to make the the safe decision. That's how I felt. I felt like it was, even if it was safe for her, or if it was beneficial to her, I feel like I could never trust her to make the safe decision for me. You know what I'm saying? And just one example is before even the shelter came about, one of the incidents I remember that still stick with me to this day is my stepfather whooped my ass because I didn't want to play a video game with him. Like, I'm talking about, it was about 11 o'clock at night. I was in the bed, you know what I'm saying? He was excited because he beat another board on Super Mario Brothers. And he's like, hey, boss, come look at this. Come look at this. So I'm sitting there and I'm not excited. For one, I'm not playing. You know what I'm saying? But then I forget exactly what happened, but somehow he beat the game, and it was like, all right, you go ahead and play. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to play. So it resulted in me saying, well, you know, I want my daddy. Like, that's what I said, just like that. So I got my ass whooped. And my mother told me, she said, you shouldn't have said you want your daddy. So that's just a case of how it went with establishing me not being able to trust her to make the safe decision.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that also had me thinking growing up in a certain way of, why don't women just leave? You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with them? I didn't understand it. I still, to some degree, don't understand it now, but I get it a little more. You know what I'm saying? So maybe y'all can elaborate on that. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe y'all know women, or I know that women talk to women more about these type of things. You know what I'm saying? So maybe y'all can enlighten me.
Well, a big part of it is financial impact. If he's making the bulk of the money,
Mm-hmm.
and if the kids are and sometimes we take the comforts of living over our own safety. We'll
Mhm.
stay in a situation that we should not stay in
Mm-hmm.
just because we want to continue to live the life that we live, when in fact it is not healthy. So a lot of women won't leave because of financial reasons. Um, a lot of the manipulation from the abuser, telling them things like, ain't nobody gonna want you.
Or you won't make it without me,
Yeah,
and
you ain't gonna be nothing without
mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of not only physical, but verbal and emotional abuse on top of financial abuse. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, I can dig that. I can
And
dig
that's
that.
probably the biggest reason,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to keep your children safe,
Yeah.
or you think you're keeping your children safe by staying in a place of abuse, but making sure your kids have a stable, even though it's unstable, a stable environment. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
See, I and I've had these conversations with my mother as an adult. So this
Mhm.
is, you know what I'm saying? This is not a, if she heard this, she wouldn't be like, oh, this is a shocker.
Mhm.
Um, but what I've come to realize, the conclusion I came up within myself was, at the same time, um, this was her opportunity to try to get it right. And she felt like that was the only way. And I say that because, so my mother had me when she was 17. Well, she got pregnant when she was 17. You know what I'm saying? There's no nice way to put it. I was a mistake. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? That's just real as can be. That's flat
Is
out.
that what she
No,
said to
I'm
you?
I'm saying for the simple fact that when it happened, um she was she was scared. She didn't know what to do. She felt like she made a mistake, and she dropped the ball. She didn't even want to tell her mother. The only way she found out was later, that my father's mother called my grandmother and said, hey, I can't wait till our grandbaby get here. But she always brought up how on the delivery table, my grandmother looked at her as she was screaming in pain and said, you shouldn't have never got pregnant. So
Mm.
thinking about that, like, I felt bad for her. You know what I'm saying? Because can you imagine, you you felt like you did something, and you know what I'm saying? We've all been there in making mistakes. You know what I'm saying? You did something and fucked up, and now you're in pain, like serious pain. The one of the most, I can only imagine, one of the most serious pains ever. And the person that you should be able to look to for comfort said, well, you shouldn't have got, this is just not the time for that. You know what I'm saying? So this whole time you're looking at it, I felt like that put something in you that says, I fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So just judging based on how I was treated coming up, I looked at it like, this abusive situation is not an abusive situation. It's me trying to get it right this time, because my father was young, knuckleheaded, male dancing as a hustle, and you know what I'm saying? So now you meet the dude who works for the city, a few years older, a little bit more stable. Y'all were together 10 years before you got married, you know what I'm saying? But only stayed married for a year. But this was your shot to get it right. This was your shot to make your mother eat her words. You know what I'm saying? I got a family. I got a husband now. He has a great job. He takes care of me. So I'm going to accept whatever comes with it. You know what I'm saying? And I basically say all that to say I understand where you were coming from with the whole, you know what I'm saying? Because when I look back at it like that, that's it.
Well, also keep in mind about this. So recently, I went through a situation where I was being harassed by a girl over a guy, right? And she reached out to me about said guy, about how abusive he had been to her. And I'm like, whoa. But it's something she said to me. I said, we're 49 and 50 years old. Why are you putting yourself through this? And she said, I just don't want to be by myself. I'm getting older and I'm tired. Mm-hmm. And a lot of women put up with that. And it kind of, as horribly as she was treating me, I felt bad for her because it all made sense why she acted the way she did, why she was lashing out. Her people hurt people. But she just didn't want to be alone. So she was willing to put up with financial abuse, him taking her money, verbal abuse, him telling her to shut up and calling her names, and physical abuse. Mine was blown. So a lot of times women just don't want to be alone.
Cause I know and I know where I wanted to go with that when I was starting off with just being a kid and growing up in that. Because I was looking at this Gabby Petito case.
Mm-hmm.
The young lady who, you know, they found her remains and her boyfriend is still on the loose. And I just really feel like his parents know more than what they're saying. I just do.
I agree.
If even if she was out on the road and he flew out and met up with her and then flew back home and her family is calling saying we haven't heard from her, we can't get in touch with her, and this is not common,
Right.
you should even want to know where this young lady is.
But
You know what
see,
I'm saying?
one of the issues about abusers that has always bothered me, even with my ex-husband, family will show up and they will protect them, which
And they won't
enables
hide
their
it.
bad behavior.
Yeah, they'll hide it, and
Yes, they will.
they'll make sure that in some way that bad behavior, like you were saying, Coco, doesn't get to see the light of day,
Or
because they
it's
don't want
something that
to be
you're doing.
right. Or it's and also it's, I don't want to have to look at the reflection of if you're a parent and a mom or a father.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I raised. This is the kind of human that I produce.
Yep.
So with me hiding it or not allowing people to know what kind of the character of the person, say the boyfriend allegedly murdered her, right?
Right.
They have to face, oh shit, I this is the child that I raised. I
Yeah, this
raised a human being that was capable of putting his hands around another human being and strangling her to death.
They're stigmatized as well.
Right.
mm,
And then how do you come to your own shit where you're like, damn, my child murdered another someone else's child with their bare hands. That's a monster. If you're able to murder someone with your bare hands, you are a complete monster. And where you came from has some monstrous shit behind it too.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have to dig into all of that shit, which in the Black community, and it's not just the Black community, but mostly in the Black community, we sweep that shit under the rug in
Yeah.
all phases of abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, too. You know what? It's kind of I think with sexual, I think
Yeah.
definitely. I
Oh, I
Yeah.
think
saw it a
definitely.
lot with my in-laws. A
Yeah.
lot.
But I
Yeah.
know the most ratchet black family could be out somewhere and a dude put his hands on the woman and the uncle that smoked crack and will steal all of the tires off of your car would be like, nigga, you don't hit no woman, nigga. you
It do be that guy, don't it?
So it's like,
But it still happens though. It's
yeah,
still, and then the woman is blamed. The woman is the person will say, okay, well then you should not, like you were saying, your mother's mom was saying you shouldn't have never got pregnant.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's not helpful.
not at
Or,
all.
oh, you shouldn't have told him, you shouldn't have never said to your husband to shut up. But what if the husband was being incredibly disrespectful, or vice versa? Because men go through abuse as well. How do telling someone what they should not have done is incredibly problematic.
Yeah,
You don't
Yes.
tell a person who's involved in any kind of abuse, oh, you shouldn't have done that, and you shouldn't have done that. It's just like you're condoning the person who is abused. No one deserves to be abused. I don't care if they got a bad attitude. I don't care if they got a smart ass mouth. I don't care if the world dislikes that person. No one deserves to be abused.
yeah,
So where do we come to a resolve as far as, like I said, in our community, in the black community, where do we go where we're saying, okay, so your mom was 17 when she got pregnant, meaning she may have been 18 when she had you. She
right.
may have gone through her own abuse. In turn, her mother was probably heavily abused and then taught to submit to that abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So she taught her child while she's on that table having you and moaning in pain. She's not comforting your mother. She's telling you, oh, well, you deserve this because you should have never got abused. Well,
Mm-hmm.
goddamn. So where does the cycle stop?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true because I've even seen at my place of business, we have events. You know what I'm saying? Somebody had rented it for their daughter's sweet 16 party. So they had a sweet 16 party. You could tell that the mother and the father are not together, right? But the father is the one paying for the party.
Of course.
So he shows up, him and his brother shows up. They even had a couple females come in and sit over behind the bar. The mother, her sisters on the other side of the room. It's a grimming party all night because the adults are drinking and the kids are partying, but the adults are grimming each other and talking about each other. After the party was ending, the daughter was so upset because the vibe was fucked up in her party. She had a right
Mhm.
to be upset, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Now, what she did next, I wouldn't say that I condone it. I mean, but she's 16. I don't expect her
Right.
to know how to control emotions yet. But she walked up to her father and said, Daddy, I wish you wouldn't have never brought them hoes in here. Right? Now,
Oh my
like I
I'm
God.
said,
laughing because I was thinking that when you was telling the
listen,
story.
and like I
Oh.
said, I don't condone how she did it. So anyway, she says it. She was slick as hell because she said it as she was
God.
walking out the door, right?
Oh my
He
God.
he walks out behind her. He balls his fist up and punched her like a nigga in the street. I'm talking about you heard her jaw crack, right? So my security guys, they
Jeez.
like one of my security guys came up to me like, man, we about to go whoop his ass. I said, hold on. Because I told my man, I said, look at the parking lot. The whole family's in the parking lot, right?
Right.
They're mad. Like they're mad, but they're not outraged. Do you know what would happen if I punched my daughter in the jaw? It
Absolutely.
would be a war in that
It,
parking
it,
lot.
it would be a
Everybody
war.
would
Yeah.
be trying,
Yeah.
they would be trying to hit me with cars. People would be throwing bricks. I would be getting stoned.
You
The
you
the most
definitely getting stoned.
the person that doesn't cuss, like even the elders would be cussing. You motherfucker, what do you do?
Yeah. How
This
dare you?
family, this family took the opportunity to talk shit about him and the chicks.
Yeah.
Nobody was outraged that he punched his daughter in the
Water and
jaw. So after he punched the daughter in the jaw,
Oh my God.
she came running back to the door.
oh my God.
He's like, can I just come back? Because, once people leave out, we be like, hey, it's over. It's a wrap. Because when you let them back in, the mayhem from the parking lot comes back
Comes
inside
in
of the
too.
building. So,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm like, okay, go ahead, use the bathroom. Right now, at this point, her uncle comes in behind her. And I'm like, my man, he like, man, my niece just went in there. I'm just trying to make sure she all right. Okay, go ahead. This nigga goes in the bathroom and blows her shit out too. So we had to grab him
Oh
and we
my.
had to throw him out, open the door with his head.
Oh
Now
my.
he on the parking lot. The daughter comes running back out. Now the whole family is in the parking lot scrapping. So it
That's
seemed to
normal
me
for
like
them.
domestic violence in that family is very normal.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, where does that cycle end? Okay.
That
she
is
maybe she
terrible.
should have never said, Dad, I wish you didn't bring them hoes with you. However, was she not valid in her feelings?
Oh yeah, she was very valid.
So
Like
if
that's
she's
what.
valid in her feelings, then dad and uncle are hurt, are their butt hurt about being wrong.
Yep. Because we come from a culture, I know I do with my parents, do as I say, not
Not
as
what I
I do.
do. Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
if you talk back,
Yeah.
you're gonna get smacked in your mouth. That's
Yeah.
how it was.
And then what's really talking back? Is it talking back, or is it, okay, you might be right, mom or dad, but here are my feelings. Here is how she definitely could have said that shit differently. You know what I'm saying? Sweet 16, I probably would have snatched her up like, yo, who you talking to?
Right.
You know what I
Not in
mean?
front of everyone.
But I'm also coming from a place where I'm trying to break the cycle of domestic violence in my
Yeah.
family, in my lineage. I'm trying to change things. So if you're not trying to change that, then you're not going to understand what the fuck I'm talking about anyway.
Yeah, because
Wow.
I think the shit has been, and this is in no way, shape, or form condoning any type of domestic violence. Because when I tell you, I I hate any motherfucker that put their hands on a, you know what I'm saying,
On another
on
On
person.
another
another person.
person.
If you get to the
Like,
point where you're so angry that you have to do bodily harm to another human being, then there's something in here that's not triggered. It's
yeah.
not it's not connected or screwed in quite right.
But when you look at the history, especially speaking from our culture,
Mm-hmm.
the crooked motherfucking powers that be
Yeah.
taught us
Yeah.
how to be abusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And the first thing you learn, even in religion, when you have children, is spare the rod, spoil the
Spoil the
child,
child.
and then they don't even teach you that that's not the meaning of that
yeah, because
phrase.
that can
That
go.
has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
You don't beat your children into submission.
And let me when I got pregnant, I was 15. I didn't say nothing because I was scared of my parents. I told my sister and my best friends. And when my mom noticed I was gaining weight, my mom finally broke down and took me to the doctor. My parents' response was so over the top to me because I would have probably come to talk to them if I didn't anticipate them putting on their nigga suits. My father, true story. That day, my mom found out she had a meltdown in the doctor's office. So when I got home, I'm going to church. I'll be safe there.
Mm.
No, ma'am. John came and got me, pulled me out that choir stand.
Hold
My
on, you talking
sister
about your
too.
father?
Yes.
Oh, I was
And
about
he
to say
commenced
John the
to slapping
Baptist.
us up, both of us.
Not John the Baptist.
John the
I
Baptist.
was about to say. Yeah.
Because my parents didn't understand the whole reason I was in this situation, besides a bad choice, was that I was scared of the very reaction. And I learned something valuable with that experience with being pregnant with my daughter. Beating your kid is not the way, not at all.
It doesn't solve a thing.
You put fear in them,
Yeah.
they won't come talk to you.
Yeah.
And somebody somebody asked me, what would have happened if you would have had that baby full term and you just would have had it? I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when those girls put babies in dumpsters, that's why. Because somebody has instilled this fear in them.
And it also creates a feeling of them submitting to abuse further down the line with any
Yes.
relationship that they're in, whether it be physical, mental, emotional abuse, any of those things, you create that down the line.
And it did for me, Jackie. It
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Because when I wanted to get away, because now my parents are super overprotective and I feel like I'm living in a prison. So once I got an out, I met my ex-husband and I got the fuck
Fuck
on.
on. And then you do that too. You jump on the boat that feels the safest to float in. And then that could be abuse. You're never able to recognize what's a non-toxic situation or a non-abusive situation for yourself because you only recognize, okay, as long as I'm okay with this motherfucker for a little bit, then I can accept whatever they throw at me.
And that's
And then you
how it
just
was.
jump
That's
from
how it
shit
was.
to shit to abusive shit to abusive shit to, it just goes down a line. And that's really what the fuck happens.
And I had a rude awakening. I got married, moved to Fort Hood, Texas with this man I barely knew
Mm-hmm.
because I was so in love and I just wanted to get away from my parents. He took me to Fort Hood. And I remember one day, my daughter and we walked to the Piggly Wiggly. That's so long ago.
Not the Piggly
The
Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly.
The Piggly Wiggly.
Yep. And so on the way home, I called my mom. And I just missed my parents. And I remember talking to my mother for about 45 minutes. And when I got home, my ex-husband was on the porch with my son. He was an infant. And I was all happy because I talked to my mom. And the first thing he said to me was, told my daughter, he said, baby, go in the house. And he told me, after you feed them and put them in bed, he said, I'm going to beat your ass.
Mm.
Mm.
I was like, what? Where were you? I was like, talking to my mom. And I didn't believe it. Then, baby, he made good on it. He slapped the shit out of me.
Wow.
Now,
Jesus.
I am 19 years old. Was I 19? I was 20 years old. Never been away from my parents like that, in a whole different state, on a military base. I'm very naive and green like a motherfucker. Just green. I don't know. He knows this too. And I'm young and I'm cute. I'm young. You know, I'm fresh and very, somebody would have found me and probably took advantage of me, and he knew that. So he was super jealous.
Mm.
I knew I had to get out of there. And baby, I think we stayed together for 4 years before we separated. But in the military, you get to fighting and scrapping, they separate you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I went, because he got out and I liked the lifestyle, so I enlisted. When we went to Germany, he went over there, wanted to act the ass. My chain of command said, this is what we gonna do. They made me leave the house.
Wow.
I had to go stand in barracks. But to him, that meant I was ready to party my ass off. He would drop my babies up there on a Friday night because he thought I was gonna go out. It was so toxic.
What the hell?
Yes, it interfered with my advancement in the military. It was terrible.
What made you finally say though? Like, let me ask you this: when you were moved to the barracks, and he was dropping the babies off, was it still something in you that wanted to be with him?
At that point, he was embarrassing me. So I didn't want him to be there because now in the military, your chain of command gets involved. So now my job is in my business.
Right.
So now I don't want him there because I feel like he's making me look bad. And so the bad part was, because he was a soldier before, he was a veteran, my friends kind of had some empathy for him. The dudes I work with, I was a mechanic when I was in the service. So my boys would be kind of like, well, like, you gotta understand. And I'm like, it's nothing to understand.
And that's the worst part too. The the male support that women don't have, or the male friends that women do have that don't speak on the abuse.
Man, when they used to
Yeah.
bring hoes back to, well, I'm sorry, when they used to
Hoes.
bring women back
Hoes.
to the barracks, they used to
Hoes
come to
back to the
me.
barracks.
They'd be like, Medlock, so Randy is treating me so bad. What did you do? What should I do? I would try to advocate, be like, bro, man, you know that ain't right.
Right.
But when my husband was doing this bullshit, they kind of felt sorry for him. And it pissed me off. So finally, after everything, I made him, my chain of command made me send him home.
And see that I just can't. I'm the type of person I can't even be, that's not to say I don't know nobody that haven't been the abuser, but I don't know it. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't talk about that shit with me. But if I did, oh, that's instant disconnect. I can't fuck with. That's the weakest shit ever to me.
It is
To
But
put
when
absolutely
your
your
right.
circle all on the same bullshit, there you go.
oh, guess what? If you in a circle full of niggas who beat their women, 9 times out of 10, you beat yours too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Ain't
my
if
my kid,
there's no straight up, there's no dude that feel the way I do that's hanging around. If you hanging around a whole circle of them, you know what these niggas about because
Absolutely.
they talk or they'll say
Absolutely.
something. Because I've been out at events and heard niggas say certain things, and somebody will say, shit, man, what if your girl did such and such? Man, I slapped the shit out of her. Guess what? That thought process have never entered my mind with my
Right.
woman. I
Right.
have never been talking to somebody else and referred to my wife as a bitch.
Mhm.
Never, ever in over 20 years.
Yeah.
Never called her a bitch. Never, none of that. Like none of that. She gets, matter of fact, she's probably the one person in the world that has the most control over me than me. And when I say that, I mean by just saying, hey,
I got what you're saying.
you
Yeah.
know,
yeah.
like on a lighter note, we had went to J.C. Penney one time and bought my daughter a lot of clothes when she was smaller, and we get to walking out the door, and the lady took all of the ink things off of the clothes, but forgot to ring them all up. So we got about $200 worth of clothes, but she only charged us $80, and I'm looking like, oh shit, let's get to the car.
Let's go.
And my
Let's
wife looked at me
go.
and said, you know we taking them back.
Oh, look. Now that's one thing I would have been like, hey,
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 but
hey.
guess what though? Because I think like this. I always tell y'all,
Yeah.
she's the closest thing I know to God.
Yeah.
So I felt like, is this God telling
It
me I
definitely,
need
hey,
I need to take it back? But
the God does work
yeah.
through the closest person to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I look at it like you a weak ass dude
You a weak
if
motherfucker.
you disrespecting your woman and your children on that note. Now, this is one thing I am growing. I'm really trying because I'm the type of person that if my son done some bullshit, talk back to his mother or hit his sister or do some bullshit, I'll swing on him. Like, hey, you
The
know what I'm saying?
irony,
But I
the
know,
irony in that.
but
I'm
but
gonna tell
I
you why.
know, but I know I swing on him, and I've always told him, like, even one time I punched my son in the arm, and it wasn't even nothing serious. We was just bullshitting, and he was like, "Oh man," I said, "Man, first of all, stop." I
For
said,
sure.
I said, "Are you in pain?" He said, "No," but I realized it's just the thought of my big ass daddy hitting me. It's supposed to hurt. And I said, man,
And
if,
or let him recognize that I know my big ass daddy hit me and I
yeah.
don't want him to hit me again.
But I always make it clear to him that first of all, if I hit you like I was hitting somebody on the
For
street, there
sure.
would be no other conversation to be had. You
And
would
you
be
wouldn't be able
asleep.
to say ow.
But at the same time, I've moved towards the point of trying to communicate more.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think a lot of these dudes out here, these grown ass men, for one, they didn't have their parents didn't instill in them or nothing. I ain't even gonna say parents because the people that instilled the ability in me to check myself were not my parents.
Wow.
It was the dudes I grew up around. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I had big homies and uncles who would tell me, yo, that type of shit ain't cool. Stand on your own. Walk in your own lane. My uncle used to tell me all the time, man, don't move with the crowd. be yourself. And my uncle, you done seen him around. T Money, like that was T Money is more like my brother, but that's that's my father's younger brother. And that's he used to always tell me, man, be your own man. He taught me more than my father did. Like I talk to my uncle. If I don't talk to my uncle for a while, something is not right. I've went 2 years without talking to my father and didn't miss him at all. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? I got big homies who I watched how they treated their kids, and we talking about street niggas, like they straight from the street, but they made sure they were spending time with their kids. They were taking care of their kids. So the street instilled in me, I found outside of home the ability to check myself. And I think a lot of these cats, because that's what it comes down to.
Self-awareness.
Yeah,
It's
like
called self-awareness.
you weak as hell if your woman can, or even if you're just jealous, because that Gabby Petito
Whoa.
shit, you can't tell me that.
He was jealous. I
Yeah,
that you asked. I think that's exactly what it was. I think it was nothing more but jealousy.
And
because
I will say this as a person who's been through it, the jealousy and the insecurity, I'm not sure with my ex where it came from. I just think that family members saw that behavior and they never corrected it. Or once again, it was the other person's fault. But the irony and the thing with my ex-husband is he barely would put his hands on the kids, our kids.
mm,
Very good father, which was
Wow.
crazy to me. Very good father. To this day, my kids aren't his biologically, but my kids will tell you that's their dad. Because he was real instrumental in raising them, but me and him couldn't get it together.
and you know what's crazy? Because you gotta, that has to be, hmm, I don't even know how to put it, because
That made it harder
it's
to leave.
very, no, I'm saying it's very, it's good that no child got hurt. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that is some deep confusing shit when you really break it down. Because when you're a little kid and you're looking at your father figure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he's the greatest thing ever to you.
And he's capable of hurting
Yeah.
Mhm.
your
Your
mother.
mother. Like so now
There
you,
is something, yeah, there's something there. It's like,
woo,
wow.
My son and I and we talked about it years later. And my son said, my dad, he was like, I love him. I don't like what he did to you. And he said, me and dad have talked about it as grown men. I even addressed it with his ex-girlfriend because baby, she didn't play. She was from the street and but her ass was in jail for stabbing him. But my kids, their response, he had it coming. We love you, Dad, but you can't go around treating women the way that you treat them. And my
That's just
son
so
said,
hard. That's hard.
yeah, my son said, Mom, my kids called me one day from when I was at work. And they would always call me because they'd be fighting. And somebody had to call to break it up or somebody was gonna get hurt. This one particular time, my son called because he said my daughter hit him because he wouldn't wake up for work. And when he hit her back, instinctively, because she slapped him when he was sleeping to wake him up. So he hit her. She called my ex-husband, who then called my son and read him his rights. Now, was he supposed to do that? Yes. But this part of me was like, for real, nigga? You tell the kids how we got into it one winter when we were separated, and then you dragged me out the house when I had a gown on, and when I tried to get away, you ripped it off. Tell the kids about that.
Jesus.
Tell the kids how you hit me one time with a belt, and my father came over with a gun and said, "You got one more." Tell the kids about that.
Not a belt.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you know what? Like you said, I think like these parents too, they're raising these monsters, and because that just brought me back to one time when my mother and her husband got into an altercation, and it was to a point she called the cops, right? Or I don't even know if she really called the cops because I don't remember them showing up, but I remember her saying, "I'm calling the police," right? And when she said that, his father showed up to take all of his guns out of the house.
Wow.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you
Wow.
you kind of supporting this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now let me ask y'all this. On another note, do you think that a man like that can is capable of at some point correcting himself? Like, let's say your ex-husband after some years came back to you and acknowledged everything that he did fucked
He
up.
he has.
And what did you think about that? Did you think that it was possible for him to change, or it's like, nigga, you're ruined?
Well, excuse me. Sorry. My kids, they want us to be cordial. I'm fine with that. But my son, he even mentioned recently, well, you and dad. I said, never. I just believe because of age, health issues, and just getting to a space where ain't nobody about to deal with that bullshit. He may have changed, but I could never do that again. It was
Yeah.
traumatic. It affected me. It I'm in therapy because I'm trying to figure out why I'm picking the kind of men that I picked. It's something deeply rooted going on, and I'm trying to figure it out. I haven't been with anybody that put their hands on me, and now you try it. We gonna be some fighting people up in this motherfucker. Cause back then, I didn't have the confidence and the courage that I have now. I was scared. I was smaller than I was. I was naive. I ain't never been away from my parents. But now I will headbutt you, bite you, and kick you in the balls. And let me just say, when I was in the military, I can shoot my ass off. So I like guns.
Yeah, we know you like guns, Coco. We know that you would shoot the shit out of it.
So
But
you don't
and I hate to say that, but
so you don't think you think he's changed because of age and not growth, pretty much.
my
Because
ex
I
is an
some people
alcoholic.
have an atonement. They have to atone before, they meet the creator, so to speak.
So
Yeah.
my kids always, because my son spends, well, both of my kids, but my son spends more time with them. My son goes, he like will go there one Sunday and then come see me one Sunday. And I think the failed relationships, because the woman that he went with after me was way younger. She was really young. But, after all the smoke cleared between me and her, she was good for him, but he mistreated her. And I had to start thinking, it ain't us Kirk, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe my mother-in-law, rest her soul, she spoiled him. I believe his sisters put him on a pedestal. Because see, my ex was the guy in the family that was smart. He was supposed to go to West Point, but let me tell you how ignorant the thought process was at that time. I don't want my friends to know that I'm that smart. What? We in the military, you a regular service person, we struggling. You could have been an officer, but because you didn't want your friends to know that you was smart.
So, oh goodness, no.
But
Oh yeah.
well,
Oh yeah.
listen, I do want to say this though, from a man's standpoint. I just really want to speak to the women out there and the young women, just to because I've always heard, like, in those type of situations, women or men, you know what I'm saying, tend to make excuses for why they're being treated or accept the treatment that they're getting. And let me just say, it ain't you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that weak
Has nothing to do with
motherfucker.
you. Yeah, it has nothing.
Because
And then you aren't weak if you're in that situation and you are being abused.
right.
That's
Yeah.
what I want people to know too. That most of the time, people will call the person who's being abused the weak party, and it takes a lot of strength to put up with that kind of behavior from someone else, especially when you love them. And
Yeah.
most people, you genuinely love a person and you're dealing with that. And that is not a weak attribute of yourself. That's just, it has nothing to do with you.
I
Yes.
will
And
say this: the military changed me. When I graduated from basic training, my ex-husband and my son came to visit me. My daughter stayed with my parents while I was in basic. And we went to a hotel that night, and I don't know, once again, he thought I was doing something. And the night before my basic training graduation, he hit me.
mm,
I determined that with our, how old was Dustin? 2-year old sleeping in another bed. What I determined that day was an escape plan. I was like, I gotta leave.
yeah.
Because if you come here to my moment, this is my moment. I did something I never thought I could do, but you made it about yourself
Mhm.
and your insecurity and your jealousy, and you put your motherfucking hands on me.
Well, I think that's what all of those type of people,
Yeah.
that's what it's about. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I will say this. I mean, to people out there in those situations with children, being that I was a child in that situation, I'm just going to say whatever you decide to do, or just think about the children,
Yeah.
because a lot of times we're so wrapped up in what we're trying to do as adults and what we trying to prove other people wrong, that our relationship is strong, that we can do this, that we can achieve this. Meanwhile, you have these children who you invited into this world. um you know what I'm
That
saying?
don't deserve
because
that.
because I was put in that position, and my brothers were put in that position. Now, my brothers, they didn't catch it as bad as me, because regardless of what happened, they were at home with their daddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? um and that's a lot of the shit I end up dealing with as an adult, because my father's the type of person that will play the role that I was. Like, one time he told me, I was talking about my son, and he was like, yeah, I remember when you was such. I was like, man, first of all, let's cut the shit.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, what you mean by that? I said, man, please don't compare me and you to me and my son. I
Absolutely.
said, this is a whole nother, I'm on a whole nother level. Like there's
And thank
nothing,
God you said that to him.
and there's
Thank God.
nothing, and I
Yeah.
learned nothing from you
Yeah.
as to this. As you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now,
Well, because we know people forget. They forget. They don't,
conveniently.
Conveniently.
and they remember
They
things the way
conveniently
they want
forget.
to.
Oh yeah.
They conveniently forget, but thank God that even yeah, Fats, that you don't continue that circle of abuse too.
And that you didn't
And that you
validate.
also checked him and said, "Yo, hey, listen, let's cut the shit." Because there are some things that I would have loved to tell my mother, and God rest the dead.
Yeah.
But my mother did some awful things, and it was because she was abused, and she was heavily abused. She was sexually abused. She was verbally
Mm.
abused. She was physically abused. And the abuse that she endured, even in her relationships with men, her mother knew about it. So she accepted it because there was no one there to save her. So
Wow.
you
When you
probably
say
saved your father from saying, "Hey,
okay.
okay, let me reflect to myself because I know, and motherfuckers do try to, they conveniently forget about the bullshit that they've put on to another person."
Yeah, and that abuse can hit that's another thing too. When people say domestic abuse, it's not just physical. Like
Yeah.
because I remember I remember my mother used to love um fucking Little Caesars crazy bread, right?
When that shit was real.
Yeah, when you hit that coupon off TV guide for 99 cents,
Hell yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Her husband didn't like the smell of Parmesan cheese. So
You
she
gotta be
she
shit.
would have to eat it in the bedroom.
My
Now,
ex-husband was like that.
now
You
my
gotta be
thing
shitting
is,
me.
first of all, here's the thing. Like I said, my mind don't work like that. If I if my wife is eating something that I don't like the smell of, I'm leaving the room.
For sure.
What the
Mm-hmm.
fuck? But see, that's control. That's the I'm gonna make you do this because
It's
I said it.
manipulation and
And you,
control.
Going back though to what
that
you
first
talked
time
about,
you did it, I knew that I could do it.
Damn. Oh God, I hate that.
it goes back to what you said, Bats, and I even listened to what you said, and it made me reflect on my relationships. It's having this baby and wanting to show people, I got it right. I got it right. Okay. I don't want to go through people judging me, and I deal with a little bit of this just so I don't have to deal with that. And
Yeah.
what you don't realize that you're doing, trying to save face, you're putting yourself in a position where you're letting a person manipulate you, control you, and at the end of the day, you're going to be unhappy. And let me tell y'all, what really got me together with my ex-husband, when he caught himself stepping out on me, baby, my whole process was, you gonna hit me, curse me, do all these things, then go lay up with somebody else? That's when I decided I wasn't taking it no more, and I decided to fight back. That shouldn't have been what made me fight back, but it was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
He was doing what he did because I allowed it. Now, I'm not saying all women allow abuse, but what I am beginning to recognize that some people are opportunists.
Well, men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they know that, okay, the trait about me that most people in my close circle know, I'm very forgiving. I don't hold grudges. And what I learned in the last year is that people will take advantage of it because they know that you don't carry that. And it's just something I learned when I was in church when I was a kid. But I had to learn how I can forgive, but I can't forget. And I need to hold you accountable, not over and over, but I need you to understand that I know that you didn't do right by me. I also need you to understand that you put me in a position where our kids saw you mistreat me.
Yeah.
And one of the things years later that did was compromise the position with me and my daughter, because my daughter had it in her head that she could do whatever because I saw how daddy treated you.
Mm.
Yeah, and these
Mm.
Oh, yes.
I
Me and
and
that
I
heifer had some fights. I love her.
and
Shout out to Danielle.
people people need to also understand because it's a lot of relationships that don't start off early, is not revealed early. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And people jump into marriages and relates. Now, one thing I'll say about marriages is, and me and my wife talked about this earlier. I was telling her, I said, what people don't understand, because people get ready for the wedding more than they do the marriage.
I was
Yep.
that
First of
person.
all, marriage is a journey. Second of all, in order to be successful, you have to be willing to wake up every day. Marriage is not a one-time commitment. You have to
Ooh.
wake up and recommit every single
Every
day of
single
your
day.
life,
Mhm.
because
Every day.
people change,
Yep.
seasons change,
Yep.
Mhm.
people change with the seasons.
And
So
sometimes you grow, you even grow apart and then you come back together again in that marriage.
you have
Mhm.
to learn to love every stage
Yeah.
of your spouse. That is now, that is appropriate. Now, that's not to say if your spouse out here smoking crack and stealing hubcaps, you don't gotta say, okay, I married this nigga, I'ma love
I'm going to
him.
stick
You
beside
know what I'm
him.
saying? I get it. It's a limit to shit, but I'm talking about as far as um maybe he's a great man, but he's horrible with finances. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
I'm talking about the things that you can work on.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the things that are just not non-negotiable. People don't understand. Like I always say, me and my wife we've never beefed over money at all, and we never will. We were 15 years old, and she was anteing up with me on my studio time with her co-op money. You know what I'm saying? It was times when I had to go on tour and there wasn't a budget. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, how can we make this happen? What do you need? You know what I'm saying? And then when the bag came in,
Right.
she's welcome to whatever she want. She would never have to say, mine, yours. No,
Right.
if it's right there, it's on the table.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
Well,
Now,
and that's beautiful. Beautiful. Because a lot of people don't understand that, as you said, marriage is a journey. And I remember when my parents didn't have. I remember when my dad would get laid off from the plant and he would be detailing cars. And I remember him saying, "Did you get the mail out the mailbox? Did I get my check? Did I get my check?" And I was like, "No." And I remember seeing a disappointment in his face because I'm referring to unemployment when he would get laid off.
Oh, yeah.
But things I found out later about my parents. At some point, I guess my parents got food stamps because they were struggling, but we never knew about it Because back then, parents didn't tell all their business to their kids.
Yeah, they wasn't selling their food
They
stamps.
was
They
my
sure
parents.
wasn't.
I
Hey,
can't get my parents to
They
this
sure
day to
didn't sell
buy
their food
some.
hey,
stamps.
hold on though. Now, this is on a whole nother side note for what we talking about, but I do remember my stepfather riding with him up to the food stamp spot, or it was a check cashing spot on Grasher and Harper. And this is how they used to sell food stamps. He just get out the car and like got them food stamps, just like that. Say it. See if anybody bite. Cause it's people who would hang around the food stamp office. He just had a box of stamps in his hand. Got them food stamps. Like
How about my girl told me, girl, if you drive down to Detroit on Woodward somewhere, you would get your stamps a day early. So down we went.
wow.
But it's crazy, man, because my parents and I speak highly of them because there have been ups and downs. I have seen my parents physically get into it, but I've also witnessed my father trying to be when my mother was going through breast cancer. My mother didn't have her taste. She was going through a lot, and my father had to be her rock. My father had to let her know, okay, you got a double mastectomy. I still love you and you're still beautiful to me.
Yeah.
Even though 2 days later they might cuss each other out. But the thing that I learned from watching my parents is that marriage is what you make of it. It's a team effort. Every day ain't gonna be what you see on TV and roses and butterflies.
Right.
But my father holds my mother in such a high esteem. Sometimes it get on my damn nerves. It was like, don't tell your mama, don't tell your mama. But it's only because he loves my mom. And my father went through a stage where he was fucking up because he was drinking. But he loved my mother enough where he gave it up.
And
He
look,
loved her enough to give it up.
and even I'm glad you brought that up because um we gonna move on to our what the fuck you mean segment. And I found this video, and on this video the older gentleman was saying, I think the caption was I would never choose my children over my wife. And the young lady who originally shared it said, somebody please explain this to me. And then somebody else reshared it and put, you know, um, at first glance, or the older me would have saw this and instantly been like, what the fuck is he talking about? But witnessing how my grandparents loved each other and grew old together, and how my grandmother couldn't take it after my grandfather died, I basically have a better understanding of what this gentleman is saying, because at the end of the day, it's just them. And the gentleman was saying, he was like, um, my wife, my children are going to go off and they're going to live their own lives. They're going to have relationships, possibly marriages and children, and they're going to do their thing, but it's still always going to be me and her. Now, I also think the way that you, like, there are certain people who will instantly write that off, because I think at the same time too, there's a lot of people who don't understand marriage. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Okay.
But then there are a lot of people who do understand marriage, and they might feel a certain way. Everybody's welcome to their feeling. But me personally, I took it as when my kids have tried to pull bullshit on the let me go to mama. Oh, let me break it. The mama said no. Let me break it to daddy this way and try to get more of a let me try to get more words in to persuade him because at the end of the day he's gonna be able to say, well, fuck it, we doing it anyway. Basically is how I took it, right? But how I always been is what your mama say.
Oh,
You know what
you
I'm
one of
saying?
them facts. You
With your
one of
with
them.
yeah, because now we got to have a conversation
I
because
know.
now you're trying to get me to cross my partner. You know what I'm saying? I'm not about to cross my partner. For one, from my standpoint, I trust her 100%. I trust her judgment 100%. I trust that she has your best interests at heart 100%. I trust that she has my best interests at heart 100%. I trust that she's smart enough to make the best decision for all of us right now
So
Oh,
100%.
so then she makes the decisions. So she is the ultimate decision maker of yours and
No,
her
no,
kid.
no. What I'm saying is, in the app, we're always going to have a conversation. We're always going to
Okay.
have a huddle. It's a team, right? But my wife was hospitalized for months, and she couldn't even make decisions on her own health. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So standing there happened to say, okay, do that procedure. Well, let me read this. I need a better understanding of that. I need to
Right.
know this. I need to know that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That is my part. She trusts that I'm going to make those decisions in her best interest. Like
Right.
if she
that's
was
dope.
able to talk and communicate and didn't have a tube down her throat, then she would have said, what do you think about this? And it would have
Sure.
been both of us weighing the pros and cons. But now
Mhm.
she's not able to. So I have to do what's in her best interest. Now, I say all that to say, my children, I love them. You know what I'm saying? But we're
Mhm.
still developing them. We're still trying to create the best possible uh adults and our contribution to humanity. We're still trying to get it right. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And we're a team moving in the same direction. So when I look at what that gentleman said, I didn't take it as if he was saying, oh, well, fuck my kids. What you think? I took it as this my ride or die, and she's going to make the decision, whatever her decision is and whatever my decision is, for the betterment of this group. That's what I'm rolling with.
Well, okay. So back in 2008, my car broke down and I was taking a bus downtown Pontiac to work, right?
Right.
So I told my pops, and my dad said, "Oh, we can't have that. We gonna go get you a car, and I'm gonna help you get it. We gonna go when you get off work, so be ready." So this particular time, my mom didn't go to the dealership with us. So they told my dad, they ran his credit, and they said, "Pick whatever you want on the lot." I was excited. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm my daddy's baby. I'm a bit of a daddy's girl. So I was gonna kind of take advantage of that. But not on Liz watch. My father caught my mother for every step of that process, to the point where the people at the dealership got upset with my dad. It was in that moment that I realized they're a team. He's not going to make a decision without consulting with my mom, without making sure it's the best decision, not only for me as their child, but for them as well, because they're going out on a limb to help me. Because my father thing was, I admire that you get to work and you don't ask nobody, but you're my daughter and I don't want you out at night and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of made a joke that my dad was packed, but that's not what it was
First
at
of all,
all.
that
He
was such a
respected.
mature diss. Like what?
I'm being serious. I did. But because sometimes it gets to a point where I'm like, oh, come on, Dad. Come on. You making the money. It's your money. But my dad thing is, I trust your mother. I've always trusted her. We trust each other. And although we have raised 4 great kids, you are all grown. You all have your own lives, but your mother, she is with me. We're together. And it's not like, fuck y'all grown kids, but your mama's first. Now, my father and my mother, they love us, but I understand that because of what I witnessed. I get it. And my biggest fear, because my parents, they got more years in back of them than they do in front of them. My biggest fear is what happens when one of them go on to glory. Because they've been together for over 50 years.
Yeah,
that's my worst fear.
But
I don't know. I
you
just think
they talk about it. But
I
go
think
ahead,
that
Jackie.
should be a little more concise. I mean, of course, you're going to trust the person that you're with, your
Well, you
spouse
can't say
or
of course.
whomever. I mean, but you should if you're married to them, right?
But
You
but Jackie,
definitely
I always
should.
didn't understand it, because sometimes I would be thinking to myself, Pop, because I call my dad Pop. I'm like, Pop, okay, so in my brain, I'm like, it's your money. Why you gotta ask her? Because I was younger and selfish.
I mean, I'm not
But
even. I don't know.
I'm
I just
just,
feel
what you
indifferent
mean? What you
about
mean
that.
though? Because I
I
could
just feel
tell by the
indifferent.
look. I could
get
tell
it
by the
out,
look in your face.
Jackie. Get
You got
it
a
out.
whole nother feeling about
Get
it.
it.
Let
And
us
I want
hear.
to hear it, and it's
I
a
just,
valid
I just
point.
feel indifferent. I just feel very indifferent. I don't know how to verbalize it. I just
I
feel
understand
indifferent.
because of
I
your
just,
upbringing.
I
I
think
just
it's
feel
the
What you
word.
indifferent.
I
talked
think it's
about.
the wording.
It's probably the wording.
That's what I think
Words
it
are
is.
important,
I think it's
but
the
I just
wording.
feel like I'm not gonna choose my children over my wife. Um, okay.
Well, I
So you're
mean,
not gonna
first
choose
let's
your
understand all memes are the conversation starter.
yeah, for sure, for
Most
sure.
of them are obvious.
Very. And most of them are triggering to
Yeah,
people.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So I don't know if I'm triggered or I just feel like it's an unspoken rule that once you become married, you are 18. You're one. You're merging together.
Okay, and
That's
that's yeah.
technically what a marriage is. You're gonna merge into one. So I just feel like your children to both of you should come first. And I'm not saying over one or the other, but first.
But where does it say that they don't? Like it was never stated
Well,
that they don't.
he's saying they're not going to come before his wife, meaning they're second to him, and then they're third to his wife,
I
right?
see. I didn't take it as it being second. I took it more as of like Coco just said when she was at the car lot with her father, and she was like, "Come
Well,
on,
of
Pop,
course,
why you
of,
gotta call her?" And he more
right,
so
but of course
like,
he's not going to make that kind of a decision.
right, but that's what I'm saying. So we're basically taking what the gentleman
So
said.
I have a different POV than you all do.
Yeah.
And I
You know what
totally
I'm
get
saying?
that. I get it. My POV comes from what I witnessed from my parents, and it's just kind of embedded in me and other couples. But I also, in context of that meme, when they say the wife comes first, in my brain, I automatically think about grown kids.
And
That's what comes to
what
my
do the
head.
kids, what do them grown ass kids tell they nosy ass parents? Let's
I'm
be
grown.
real.
Oh,
This is my
I'm ground.
house.
Wait.
I
Yeah.
look, I remember my mother telling my grandmother, you raised your kids. If you want some more, you can have some more. But these are my kids.
Oh, then I
Right?
get it.
So in the
See,
same note,
I wouldn't know that. I don't. My mother and my father are
right,
deceased, so
right.
I don't have that rapport.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. I
Yeah,
get.
because my father and mother haven't been, first of all, it's crazy. My father and mother wasn't together. The dude who was my stepfather, I lived with him before I was a year old.
Oh
Has
wow.
he passed? Has he passed on?
No, he's
Oh,
still here. But
oh,
here's the crazy part. Nobody remembers none of that shit.
oh.
Wow.
That is the most,
That's the craziest shit.
because you try to, I get it, you know what I'm saying, and I ain't got no bitter feelings or none of that, but nobody remembers none of that shit. So
How convenient though.
even right, so even when it comes to the way I feel about my wife and being a team player, I don't have a blueprint. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm moving with God. I'm moving with my heart, and I do, like I said, the streets taught me. I feel like the creator wanted me to know the things and travel the road that I traveled because it
Yeah.
got me here. And
Yeah.
it was very easy for me not to be here. Like the odds that I beat. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just grateful. So I mean, and I feel you, Jackie, though, on that meme,
I
on
get
point
it.
of view, because I think a lot of times, though, when we having these discussions, even with other people, that's the one thing we don't take into consideration, is that everybody don't wear the same glasses.
No.
Everybody lenses are not the same thickness.
Yeah.
Everybody don't have the transition shades when the sun come out. Everybody shit don't get darker. And once we start respecting that, communication will be better. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
Having
But
conversations about your
yeah.
differences instead of just yeah.
And I
And
will. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to say something to Fats. I remember one time you posted something, and I responded to you that you remind me of my dad, right?
yeah.
And about the way you are with your kids and your wife. And what I learned later years about my father, I never knew this. I had no idea that my dad's mom had left them when they were little.
Wow.
I never knew that. But my messy mama makes sure she bring it up, but that's a different story for a different time. But I'm saying this to say, she's so funny. I'm saying this to say that sometimes the things that you experience as a child, you're going to either go a different path than what you experience, or you're going to jump on that bandwagon. And knowing that my dad, his mom wasn't around, now I understand the person that my dad is. I understand why he's his family person. I understand why he has this closeness with my mom because apparently his parents didn't have it.
Yeah, he found it's a saying, you find opportunity in the chaos.
Right.
Mhm.
There's
So,
opportunity in the chaos, and a man
Mhm.
becomes a conqueror
yes.
through the chaos.
Yes. So even in my younger selfishness and my parents sticking together and being a unit, I get it now. I get it. Because y'all, I was so mad. I was like, if he called my mama one more again. But it wasn't that my mom was controlling. It was just he trusts my mom. And he trusts her because out of anybody, probably in his life, she's been his rock and she's been there.
And
You
he
know?
Yeah.
knows what he needs. That's
Yeah.
the one thing. Let me tell you something
And
that
Liz know what he needs,
we
child.
will not admit to a lot of times as adult. We know what we need,
Yeah.
but a lot of times we just don't want to say we need it.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But we know what we need. And like when you can look at your spouse and say, that's what I need. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I need. You're the balance. That's what people got to understand. You're the balance.
Yep.
That's not a bad thing.
Right.
Like
It's not.
I know I'm a hothead. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like once it's turned on, it ain't no turning off. That's why I try to keep it calm for as long as possible. And everybody who close to me know, like even my little brother. We were in California one time. We had a restaurant, and this rich ass white dude is sitting here. He's talking some kind of bullshit. Oh, coming over to our table. We in one of these Beverly Hills restaurants, and he just keep on talking to me like, hey, ain't that right, big fella, and like nudging me, and I'm being calm and cool because we're in this nice restaurant. I'm like, yeah, my man, yeah, and finally my brother saw it. He said, my man, please walk away. Walk away. You know what I'm saying? Because I just saw in his mind, he like, I just saw my brother's whole mood. I just watched the shift. I could see the
Right.
shift. And my wife can see the shift.
That
She
makes sense
can
though.
she can see when I'm, yeah, all right. And then she peeped the shift. Oh, she like, come on, we gotta go. We gotta go. You know what I'm saying? The shift just came. Like even with my kids,
Yeah.
you give them a look. Like maybe this ain't the time. I see the shift. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And,
Yeah.
and to that kind of play into the team thing too, because I think too, kids need that. They also need that balance. Like you said, we know you're a nurturer. You know what I'm saying? And you even opened my eyes. You opened my eyes to some things, Jackie, that even I could. Because remember, I said I'm trying to work on being a better me, and just making sure that. I mean, my daughter knows that she could come to me and talk, and cry on my shoulder. I've I needed my son to really know that.
Yeah.
Boys are
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Boys are different.
They different, but let me tell you something. When it comes to female, I almost said females. Jackie was gonna get mad. Um, but let me tell you something. Women, women and girls, you know
Yes.
what I'm saying? We know that you're very emotional beings. I
Yes.
get it. But males are very emotional beings
They're
too.
actually more
But
emotional than girls and women are.
it's more common for
Ah,
us, to be trained to suppress them.
Yeah.
Where
And that's
it's like we go to the Navy SEALs at birth, the
yeah.
Navy SEALs of
God,
emotion
that's a perfect
suppression.
analogy. Yes.
Like we're put underwater. Like, don't cry.
And it's like
They
if you cry, you're gonna
Yeah.
get choked.
And you bet
further
not
into the
drown
water.
either.
Yeah.
Your weak
Yeah.
ass bet not drown. If you drown, you weak as hell.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like I just had to really express that. But I think that kids definitely that two-parent home, that team mentality.
Even the mentality that you both were talking about, as far as your kids can't my kids can't get over me because my wife and I are a team. That is imperative too, because they do need to know that, and I
Yeah.
don't disagree with it. But I also, you also want them to know, like you were just reiterating, I want them to know that I'm there for them
Oh
emotionally
Yes.
yeah.
too, and I'm available.
Yeah.
So I think maybe, again, that's probably where my issue was with, oh my, you know, you got to
Word,
be
the
a little more
words.
concise. Yeah,
Yeah,
words are
I get it.
important.
I get
Words
it.
are important.
Delivery is everything.
Yes.
Like, I could say I love you, but if I love your black
Or
ass, I
or
love your
or
black motherfucking ass, it might be
or
taken
I
a little
love you
different.
versus love you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love you versus love you has a different connotation. It's totally, love you is different than I love you.
Yeah,
Uh,
it definitely, because I'm very with words. Oh my God.
It's
Like
important.
I'm not about to respond to everybody, bro. I'm just not,
Yo,
because we're not on that level. So some people you'll see me say, you know what I'm saying, my G, my guy. Like that's just
it's a
because
totally
that's
different
not
thing.
saying fuck you. It's just saying we don't have that connection. Like I
That's right.
told one dude that I knew, he like, man, he did some bullshit while he was drunk. You know what I'm saying? He said some bullshit and then wanted to call me the next day and play it off on the liquor. And he's like, man, you my brother, man. And man, I said, no, I'm not. He said, man,
Yeah.
why you I said, what's my kid's name? He said, well, I don't know your kid. I said, all right, bro, you're not my brother.
Oh, oh,
And hung up the phone. You
yeah.
don't even know my children name. If I died tomorrow and you came to the funeral, you wouldn't even know how to address two of the most important people in my life.
Right.
You don't even know my wife's name.
Right.
We're not, bro. We're not there.
That's a
No, we're
that's another
not.
episode for another time.
Oh yeah,
That
definitely,
is, yeah.
definitely. Because I'll tell you
Words,
what.
words are important. Things
Yes,
that
they
you,
are.
you put on yourself, words that you place into out of your mouth is important. And in
Oh,
a drunk man's
that might be
words
the
is a
next
sober
episode.
man's truth.
Say that
A,
again.
a drunk man's words are a sober man's truth. Anytime a
Hey,
motherfucker say some shit to you while they drunk, it is something that they have suppressed and have always wanted to say to you.
hey, you know what? That's gonna be the next episode. Y'all look forward to that because we about to get deep and we gonna find some interesting people. We need to find somebody to have that conversation with. But
Absolutely.
it's about time for us to wrap this up, get up out of here.
This was a
Um
good conversation.
It
yeah,
was.
definitely. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We need y'all to keep spreading the word, you know what I'm saying? Two Queens and a Fat Guy is definitely circulating. The
Watch the
downloads are,
podcast, share the podcast on
yes.
YouTube.
Yes. If you can't get to YouTube, hey, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I'm quite sure y'all got one of those.
Everywhere. Yes.
Or somebody has one of those because you're obviously listening to this.
Mhm.
You can reach out to us at Two Queens and a Fat Guy podcast at gmail.com if you have any suggestions or or topics that you would like to hear, see on the show, or people that you think we should talk to, or if you heard something as far as domestic violence and you need a little bit of guidance as to where to go and resources, hey, we ain't got no beef with shooting you some links and some phone numbers too, because
Absolutely.
that's some real life shit. And you can always reach out to us on Instagram, Two Queens and a Fat Guy, Twitter, Two Q's. That's TWOQSANDAFGUYPC. So that's Two Q's and a F Guy PC on Twitter. And on Facebook is Two Queens and a Fat Guy podcast. For me, Fit Father, formerly Fat Father.
Oh! I had to say that.
Miss Jackie.
I'm so excited for you.
Miss Jackie B and y'all, Miss Coco Butterfly, aka Live Wire. That's what I'm about to start calling her. Live Wire. Coco Butterfly be all the way like, you got some wine over there?
It's not even a wine. It's a
no. Where the wine at? I bet it's right there.
She has a little bit. She got a little bit. It's okay.
Big ass glass.
Can I
no
tell
real
y'all
wine don't hurt nobody.
Tell y'all that this is what you drinking out of. What it is?
Why you gonna get so cool and then go to take a sip and then put it back down?
I'm just, and I mean, to be real serious, I just had COVID. A lot of people we know didn't make it through.
Yeah.
And I'll say this and then we'll let this go. Don't be fluffy. Don't have no underlying conditions, because everybody gonna contact you to tell you how not to die if you get COVID.
Oh yeah.
Shut up.
Them Facebook doctors are on you.
Oh my
them Instagram,
goodness.
them TikTok doctors.
My own father called and said, "Now, baby," he said, "Baby," he said, "Now I know I don't want to get on you," because that's his thing. He said, "But I just want you to lose some more weight." I said, "I lost 50 pounds." He said, "Okay, but I want you to lose some more because, you know, me and your mama, we ain't gonna tell you together, but I'm worried." I'm like,
oh Lord.
Hey,
you said they're calling you to tell you how not to die, huh?
Then my kids would drop off food at my door and take off running like they the goddamn police.
Like you got the plague.
But you know what though? We are so glad that you.
I am so glad that you're well.
I'm happy I'm okay.
Yes.
So you know what I'm saying, y'all. Hey, and fellas out there, y'all can still send in y'all pictures and y'all resumes for Coco.
As long as they're appropriate photos.
Oh yeah, because I don't want. I'm telling you like this. You send some pictures that's not appropriate, and I gotta
want dick pics.
I am putting you
Queens
on
and a Fat Guy podcast inbox, please.
Yeah, and I'm putting you on blast
for
like for
I'm
real.
gonna put you on blast, and then I'm gonna put you
have to do that on the episode.
My personal group chat.
Yeah, and I'm gonna roast your ass. Like we go, if you send a face pic with the inappropriate, I'm putting you in a square up here, and we.
If you send a face pic and your face is greasy from Vaseline, I'm putting you on blast as well.
If you send a face pic and you my father, I'm roasting the shit out of you. But look, hey, look, hey,
you gonna have to get that one together.
We out of here though. We gotta go.
Y'all have a good one and be easy. Tell your friends and tell those people you can't stand. Good night.
Bye.
All right.
I ain't lying, I'm only telling the truth. I ain't lying, homie.